We are discussing the African Olympic movement. There is currently a conference happening at UJ in association with the German University of Sport. Joining me now in studio to chat a bit more about this is IOC Executive Member, that is Dr. Sam Ramsamy, Professor Burnett, Director of Olympic Studies at UJ, and Prof. Stefan Wassong, who is Head of the Institute of Sport History and the Director of Olympic Studies at the German Sport University. Thank you very much for joining us here on Game On ANN7. Dr. Ramsamy, let's start with you. I just want to ask you at the outset, of course, very sad day for athletics, as we have heard. We're going to be certainly missing Burnett Sindani.
There's no doubt we will miss him. I've known him since I returned from exile in 1991, and he briefed me about what's happening in athletics. But what I like of him most, he was an athletic statistician. He knew all the details about athletes, he knew all the details about records and all other issues, and we're going to miss him. In fact, when I first came here and up to now, only 2 people in South Africa I knew were experts at athletic statistics: Burnett Sindani, who now passed away or was killed, and Gert Leroux, who again passed away. And now that's rather sad, and it's tragic. It's horrible what has happened to Burnett Sindani.
Well, it certainly is, and I hope we'll get some answers soon. On a more positive note, as I began saying, there's a very special conference that's happening at the moment. Tell us about it.
Maybe the best will be Cora to start on that point.
We actually, in collaboration with Professor Stefan Wassong and his team, we enter into agreement that we will have an Olympic Studies Centre, the 38th in the world, and the first one on the African continent. So it's quite historic for us to have this conference. We had a workshop in May, and this conference is the very first that Professor Wassong introduced the world to us and us to the world. So we had brilliant papers yesterday, today, and tomorrow. And it's really about the historical and contemporary issues around Olympic studies.
Professor Wassong, maybe give us your what you think of South Africa and Africa, Olympics on the continent, the movement, and what are you hoping to bring to better the Olympic movement on the continent?
Well, I think there is a very interesting country, is a very interesting city here, and I think that there are a lot of possibilities to promote top-level sport, and with the promotion of top-level sport we can also promote grassroots sport. It's very challenging for us, but it's very interesting, and we enjoy the collaboration, and we would try our best to get a momentum for the collaboration and to make the best out of this collaboration.
Well, absolutely. Dr. Ramsamy, maybe you can give us an idea of the African Olympic movement. Are we developing as fast as the other continents? How do we need to better ourselves in terms of competing at an international level?
Africa as a whole is developing, but disappointingly very, very slowly, simply because we have various sectors in Africa. The North Africans have a lot of competition with the Mediterranean countries in Europe, so they're to some extent they're a bit advanced, and Southern African countries are advanced because of our infrastructure here, but other countries, especially Kenya and Ethiopia, do very, very well in running events and in boxing events. But South Africa is the only country, together with Egypt, that concentrates on all Olympic sport. And it makes it difficult for us because that presents challenges in that everybody wants to take part in the Olympic Games, and it's not easy. But nevertheless, as far as South Africa is concerned, we believe we will do well in athletics and swimming, and West Africa is going to do well again in some track events, and certainly in some sports team events like handball and other areas. And East Africa is going to do well in again in boxing and athletics. And the Mediterranean countries, they are also very well organized, and like South Africa, they have a very varied and a very multifocal approach, and I'm certain that they are also going to join the Southern African countries in accelerating the progress. But sadly, and I'm disappointed, it's very slow.
And hopefully, well, we'll probably chat about that a little bit later in terms of the IOC getting involved in more development programs on the continent. Cora, I just want to bring you in into something that Mr. Ramsamy said. The fact that makes South Africa's job very difficult is we obviously want to send as many sporting codes as we can. And as we've seen, there's hockey that's not going to the Olympics. There's probably gymnastics and a few other codes that won't be going to the Olympics. How does that affect the development of those sports in terms of the Olympic movement in our country?
I think we have to look at it in a broader perspective, because really our country is really about social transformation. So I think first and foremost is a winning nation, it's a healthy nation, but also a prosperous nation. So it affects it in the sense that you need role models, you need to aspire to. And obviously team sports are expensive sports and you have years that you prepare. So I'm sure it's a disappointment, but I think we pick ourselves up from there, and events per se, it has proven, research has proven, doesn't necessarily increase the basic, the grassroots level of participation. I think Africa and South Africa are really struggling with so many other social issues that sport participation, sport can change something, but I don't think that this is really going to have a really lot of negative or detrimental effects in the long run.
Well, we certainly hope not. Just to bring you in, Professor Wassong, what is the ethos of the Olympics? Do we go to compete, to be an Olympian, or do we go to win medals? Is it okay to send a team that won't win a medal just for the kind of experience to an Olympic Games? I mean, that representing your country at an Olympic Games is, you know, just something that's amazing.
Yes, definitely. I think striving for athletic excellence is what is the Olympic movement about. It is to strive for individual excellence, athletic excellence, but at the same time I think all athletes have to be aware that they also have to act as some kind of role models.
Absolutely.
That they have the moral and social responsibility to engage the masses to get into sport, which is above all to engage the youth to get in sport. And that's why we, of course, excellence is a vision of the Olympic movement. It is a central value of the Olympic movement, and this is good. But we also have to protect athletic excellence. There are a lot of issues which are, well, bypassing athletic excellence. For example, the problem of doping, the problem of corruption. We have to safeguard Olympic excellence in order to develop an educational momentum from Olympic movement, from Olympic sport to society.
Doping is obviously one of your focus topics, something that you speak a lot about. In terms of the Kenyan perspective and the doping happening in the country, maybe talk us through your experience with that topic and how it's affecting the African Olympic movement.
Well, actually, I'm approaching the issue of doping more from a historical point of view. But we all know that what has happened in the last 2 weeks, this is a major challenge, not only for the Olympic movement, for sport in general. And I think that the IOC and other international federations are doing a lot to bring back the integrity to sport, which is highly needed. But I clearly have to say that the responsibility is not only with the IOC. Doping is, we have to tackle doping, and all institutions who are in sport, who are dealing with Olympic sport, who are in the governance of Olympic sport, has to be proactive to tackle the problem of doping, if we believe in sport as some kind of an educational tool. But doping is definitely not an issue which has come up in the 1980s, 1990s and so on. Doping has a long history in the Olympic movement. It was always on the agenda of the Olympic movement. Yeah? The problem increased with the commercialization of the Olympic movement, or with sport in general, in the 1980s. But it's definitely not a new problem.
Dr. Ramsamy, obviously the IAAF will now take responsibility, deal with the athletes, deal with the administrators that are caught in this doping scandal. But how is the IOC looking as a mother body in terms of getting involved with eradicating doping in the sport? Obviously, Rio 2016, all eyes will be on the Olympic movement. Certainly they need to be more involved. The relationship needs to be stronger with their federations to eradicate.
The IOC, together with the public authorities at the government, have created a body called WADA, World Anti-Doping Agency. It's doing quite a lot of work.
Absolutely.
And in fact, at the moment, the IOC President Thomas Bach has now put in another 140 million rand into the kitty to ensure that the doping is effective. So quite a lot is being done. But if I might comment on the issue about, whether we should be taking too many athletes
please.
and development. That's a debate, and personally I do not accept that argument, simply because when we return, you, the media, especially the media, are not going to comment on how many athletes we took. You are going to comment on how many medals we brought back.
Sure.
So because of that, we need to take the top athletes to the Olympic Games. And of course, the larger the team is, it makes it very difficult. And as far as the merit is concerned, for instance, in track and field and in swimming, we take the people of the highest caliber. And now those athletes, if you take people of lower caliber in other sports, like we're talking about very many other sports, then the swimmers and the track and field athletes are going to complain, why have you left us out? Because we are much more superior in our ranking than the others. So therefore we need to look at medal potential. Because in the end, if we come back with medal, we're going to get applause. If we come back with no medals, we're going to get brickbats. And I think that in the end is the important issue. And therefore we have to take the best and try and get as many medals as possible. And in this respect, I believe SASCOC has got the equilibrium right in what they are doing.
Dr. Ramsamy, if you don't mind me asking, I understand what you're saying in terms of the other smaller sporting codes, maybe hockey, gymnastics. But what about youngsters in terms of track and field? We get medals from track and field. What about the gifts and the other tux athletes that did so well at the junior champs? Shouldn't we be sending them now to the Rio Olympics to get that kind of experience? So in the following Olympics, we can maybe even see medals from them.
SASCOC has made provisions for that, and that is taking place. There's no doubt about that. And I give you a very good example. When I was president of the Olympic Committee here in 1992, just before we even became a democratically elected government country, I took Penny Haynes. Penny Haynes was not the best swimmer. I saw the potential in her, and I took her. And in 1996, she brought us 2 gold medals. And that is the type of potential SASCOC is also looking at. But sadly, not very many people are commenting on that, because they're looking at the issue of controversy. And we should also be looking at that. We are taking athletes who have potential, and I'm certain that they will do well in Tokyo 2020.
Well, we certainly hope so. I have a whole list of things to chat about, and we've unfortunately run out of time, so I certainly hope that we can have a discussion once again about the other things that will come out from this conference. But thank you very much for joining me here on Game On. It was such an honor to have you here. Thank you very much. Well, moving on to cricket for just a moment. The International Cricket Council has labelled the Nagpur pitch used for the third test between India and South Africa as poor. The match was decided inside 3 days, and there were several occasions when it seemed the contest between bat and ball was non-existent. Batsmen had to contend with a sharp turn, variable pace off the surface, and untrue bounce even on the first